Have you heard of the parable, The Scorpion and the Frog, which came from Russia about a century ago? Privet, Rusil. It is a fable which teaches that vicious people cannot resist hurting others, even when it is not in their own interest, and therefore should never be trusted. 5 months ago, from the time that I'm recording this video, I put up a video where I show you how I was putting together an old Raspberry Pi 4B to be used with DeepSeek locally. I have been studying the security ramifications of running DeepSeek R1 1.5B locally on the Pi since that time. I've run it straight up from the command line. I've run it with OpenWeb UI, and I run it against my own personally created UI. All right, look, if you guys are short on time, I'll give to you straight. It's not secure. I know that that is not the answer some of you guys were wanting to hear. But if you stick around for a bit, my video might come in handy for you one day. Let's take a quick look at my actual Raspberry Pi itself. This is my dedicated, low-powered AI computer. It's a Raspberry Pi 4B with 8 gigs of RAM. I installed a cooling fan on it, and I replaced the micro SD card with an external SSD hard drive via USB cable. And the Raspberry Pi operating system is installed in the external SSD drive. Obviously, it's not going to be as fast as a NVMe drive into the PCIe and with a HAT2 connection to the board itself, but that's a much more expensive proposition for the Raspberry Pi 4B. Of course, you can order a Raspberry Pi 5 with that setup now. The name of the game here is low cost and low power consumption. Like a lot of people, I pull down DeepSeek from Ollama in Espanol Castellano, or as you say it in English, Ollama. There have been 10,000 tons of video tutorials on how to set up Ollama with the Pi and how to run DeepSeek in the Pi through Ollama, so I won't belabor that point. I also want to make it clear that I am not picking on DeepSeek based on any political reasons. The fact of the matter is, security holes can occur in any LLMs. I will give credit where credit is due. The DeepSeek R1 1.5B, which is 1.5 billion params, runs rather well on the Raspberry Pi 4B with a speed of about 4 tokens per second. And of course, one token is roughly 3/4 of a word or 0.75 of an English word. The next one comparable in size would be the Tiny Llama. I will say, though, that the Tiny Llama left lots to be desired. Its NLP, the natural language processing, isn't very good when compared to DeepSeek R1 1.5B. Just to drive the point home, obviously, if security is not at all a concern for you and your data consists of pictures of a scantily clad Rosie O'Donnell, then by all means go with the normal tutorial on how to set up the Pi with OpenWeb UI and DeepSeek. But just know that if you have sensitive data, that is like having the fox guard the henhouse. So here's how I would personally use DeepSeek on my old Raspberry Pi 4B. First, I would use Ollama to pull down the respective LLMs. In my case, DeepSeek 1.5b and TinyJama 1.1. If you're curious to know the difference between the pull command and the run command from Ollama, then certainly you can log out the commands by running Ollama in the terminal. Additionally, if you are going to be utilizing the terminal a lot, you can certainly alias the Ollama commands. In this case, I have ORD for Ollama run DeepSeek and ORT for Ollama run TinyJama in my bash RC file in the Pi. And once I'm done installing the large language models that I want to use locally, I'm going to go up here and kill any wireless connection or LAN connection that I have to the Pi. In my case, for this video tutorial, I'm keeping this on so I can record this video tutorial from my MacBook. And then I'm going to change directory into this directory here by issuing this command. This directory contains the file called raspi blacklist conf. This file is where we will block all of the Broadcom driver from connecting to the internet at the kernel level. I am going to open that file as sudo superuser2 using vim. I'm comfortable using vim, but if you want to use nano, that's also fine. If you are an advanced Linux user, you can also issue the echo command as well. And then within the file, I'm going to type blacklist Broadcom fmac and blacklist Broadcom util. These are the drivers for the Broadcom wireless and LAN devices in the Pi to connect, obviously, to the outside world. So we want to block that. So then I save the file and then reboot. Okay, and if I did everything successfully, this is what I'm going to see when I log back in again. Obviously, for this video tutorial, I am connecting to the Pi via Wi-Fi so I can have the higher quality recording device on the Mac. But you should see the Wi-Fi and LAN connection with two red X, meaning that any connection to the outside world has been cut off. And as you can see here from this screenshot, I ran the TinyJama and DeepSeek in offline mode by issuing the alias commands. I just ask the LLM to do a simple math expression, right? And this is the answer that I got from TinyJama. We'll have a closer look here in a bit when I reconnect to the terminal. But look at the difference in the answer given by DeepSeek. You can tell that it's following the scientific method, even though it's just a trivial math question. It's following the scientific method, and it is being efficient with its token. Remember that token in AI are expended on the input and output. Here's a closer look at the terminal for DeepSeek on the left here and TinyJama on the right. Certainly, you can see how DeepSeek, even the 1.5b version, can be very useful in academia and in academic research setting. But therein lies the dilemma. The price of security is eternal vigilance. By the way, you certainly would not want to run both large language models at the same time. I'm only showing this for demo purposes only. In the POV hardware video, I mentioned that I installed a cooling fan for the Raspberry Pi. This is why I knew that running an AI model um, on the machine would be quite taxing, so that's why I installed the fan. So some of you guys might be asking yourself, why don't I just set up the network to where we can shut off external internet connection for the Pi, but still maintain connection locally to the MacBook or PC? The reason why there isn't a whole lot of tutorial about that on YouTube and other places is because that is a bear to do, because there are so many different operating systems for the Pi, and people use different utilities for that. And then things can certainly go wrong on the MacBook side or the Windows side when you do that. Again, that's why you don't see a whole lot of tutorial on that from anybody about that, because it is a bear to do. And I know this is a pain in the butt to have to go through. But then the other question is, well, how do I update? Well, you're going to have to use external SSD to migrate your data off of the machine, um, if you need to update the LLMs for any particular reasons. But that is not a daily thing, right? And also, I mentioned this earlier about the UI. I know there's OpenWeb UI, but in my very humble opinion, I wouldn't trust that. I would create my own UI. There are many tutorials out there for that. If you guys want me to do a tutorial how to create a UI to work with your AI backend, let me know. I'll certainly do one for you, as time and circumstances permit. Some of you guys might be disappointed by all these extra layers of security. As an off topic, keep in mind that you can use a Raspberry Pi, even Raspberry Pi 4B like I have, for other purposes as well, including Tensorflow Lite, uh, which is an entirely different technology than DeepSeek, even though they're both in the AI field. But you can certainly use Tensorflow Lite for machine learning, and it's very good for that as well. So please keep that in mind if you're a little bit disheartened. One more quick helpful tidbit before we say goodbye. If you notice here that I have the Samsung external SSD plugged into the blue port for the USB, that is the USB 3 port, in case you're not aware. This provides more speed than the USB 2, such as it is. Okay, so obviously I'm running my Raspberry Pi OS from here, but if you need to migrate your data off of the Pi and you need to plug in another external SSD, then make sure that you plug into the blue port for better speed. Okay, my dear friends, I hope this was useful for you. If it was, please consider giving this video a thumbs up or a like, and please consider subscribing to my channel if you're not a subscriber yet. It doesn't cost you anything and will potentially help me out in the future. I appreciate it. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye for now.